What's up, everybody? It is time to close out the year strong here at Odd Chopper with my last 2022 favorite bet of the day. I am Ben Reza, and I'm here to break down my favorite bet on December 31st. Of course, it's the last day of the year. It's New Year's Eve. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everyone's excited for what they got going on today and set the tone for what's going to be a great year all around. If you're enjoying the content, if you've been with us all year, we can't appreciate you guys enough. Just joining us, better late than never. I hope you'll be with us in 2023 regardless. This is what we do. We break down all things betting, free content on this channel. Like, subscribe, be part of the community. I'm back. I'm feeling good. I'm healthy. Yesterday, I wish I took another sick day. I'm not going to lie, because Clemson, I'm not even going to waste time with that. I've never seen some of the metrics like that. They crossed the 50 on 10 straight drives, and they came away with 6 points. They outgained them, but they weren't close to winning. And I took a bad number. I deserve to lose that bet. We're gonna go out with a bang, though. Anyway, that's what we got on tap in just a second. In addition to that, how about getting $200 in free bets for $5? You see that on the screen right now. Bet 5 to win 200 in free bets over at DK Sportsbook. This is very simple. I'll take 5 seconds and then we'll move on. Talk about easy hourly rate here. You go down to the link in the description of this video. You click the link. You throw in $5 on DraftKings if you're a new user. Place a pregame money line bet, and you get $200 in free bets. That's it. Simple as that. If you want $200 in free bets, there you go. 2023, you'll have $200 in free bets. Look at this. Look at what I'm doing. It's been an awesome year. So I'm saying, you know what? We're going out with a bang. I'm taking a shot. Normally on these videos, to be honest, I like to cash tickets. Like to give the people the highest chance to win with my favorite bets. So don't go for a lot of long shots. I certainly don't do a lot of parlays on videos like this. We do have parlay videos on this very channel, but I stick to the minus 110s. Sometimes I'll have a prop. It's minus 130. Ohio State. I could take the 6 points. I obviously could lay the minus 110, and I feel good about that. Give me plus 220 on the money line. I am going against all of society. Obviously, I could get buried here. Ohio State money line, plus 220 in this spot, in the Peach Bowl, in the semifinals, in the playoffs against the undefeated, defending, I found like the MMA announcers, undisputed champions of the world in the Georgia Bulldogs. Let's get into this game and let's talk about why I think not that Ohio State should be the favorite, not that they're the favorite to win, but will they win basically more than 3 of 10? Because that's the break-even point on plus 220. It's 31%. I think that they win this game more than that. And let's talk about why. We'll start with Georgia. I want to get them out of the way because I don't have a lot to say. They're amazing. I love this team like everybody else. Kirby Smart is phenomenal. They've got everything you want. Their quarterback has been there for basically a decade. That's not even that big of an exaggeration. He's got Bowers, an all-world tight end, going to be a pro for a long, long time. He's got a multitude of receivers on the outside. He's got a stable of absolutely elite tailbacks. He's got a defense that lost multiple first-round picks at every position, and they refueled. And they've got some guys, Jalen Carter in particular, that people say might be better than anyone that was on the team last year. It's really insane. You can't run against Georgia. Inside 3.
Kids, 2023, like you put on labels and be like, the year is 2023. Like, we're officially living in the future.
Right. Yes. Right. Yeah, that bit didn't really age well. Good morning, Stokastic basketball fans. What's happening out there, gang? Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show for Saturday morning, New Year's Eve, December 31st, the last day of this foul year of our Lord 2022, about to launch into 2023, living in the future. Like I was just saying to Mikey behind the scenes, he and I, we grew up in a time back in the 80s where you would watch sci-fi movies, you would watch these things, and it would be the future 2022, and there would be robots and flying cars and all sorts of shit like that. And I look outside and it looks a lot like the 1980s still as far as technology goes, but hey, what are you going to do? We're living here. We're in the future. I am joined by my pal Rinpack. Ryan, what's going on this morning, buddy? How's your day going? I know you're up early to join us after a long night out. So how you feeling? What's going on?
No, I feel great. I'll feel better as the show progresses along, but man, it's crazy. 2022, just another year that just flew past us. Time just flies as every year passes by, and
Yep.
yeah, 2023 is here. It's crazy. I mean, it's been so fast. Like it feels like yesterday. Like we just
I don't know about you, but like as I've gotten older, like does it seem like every single year just clips by faster and faster? Like that's been a theme for me, at least over the last few years. And granted, the last few have been just wacky and weird.
No, definitely. They go by so fast. Like the days feel shorter and everything just goes by so.
Yeah. And especially with like just, little bit of home living the last handful of years. And, fortunately we're out and about again and back to real life this past year, but just a lot of, for us, like the grind of just, it's just rinse, repeat, with doing slate after slate, day after day. So it definitely moves the days along quickly too, in my experience. We're blasting into the future, but as my dad would always say, it beats the alternative. So we definitely want to be on this side of that ride. We're brought to you today by our pals over at Prize Picks, gang. Make sure you're checking them out. We'll talk about them in a little bit. We'll talk about a offer from BetMGM for a risk-free, for some free Stokastic access. Hit the like button. We've got 27 likes out of 130 of you joining us early in the morning on New Year's Eve. Tell us about your big plans, too, for New Year's Eve. What are you guys doing? What's going on? Your most exciting New Year's story, something like that. Drop it into the chat. Let's get a little chatter going while we talk about these games. We've got a solid 8-game slate. As we were saying behind the scenes, the combination of an already weird just nature of Saturday slates plus the New Year's Eve factor, I'm anticipating some weird stuff going down tonight. I think it's just going to be a broken slate, and those are typically fun ones. Creates a lot of opportunity for DFS. But between that and some of the known knowns that we've got on board as far as like injuries, absences, stuff like that, what are you seeing just as an overview type of look at this slate right now, Rinpack?
Yeah, it's a Saturday slate. We were talking in the green room, right? Saying like these Saturday slates, compared to years past, they've been completely off the chain. Like it's like WTF? Like what the fuck is going on every Saturday in this NBA? And then you think about it, they're humans. They have their Friday nights, they have their Saturday nights where they want to take rest days. And sometimes, like with this new NBA schedule, with the lot less traveling involved, it just makes for a very compact schedule at times, where these teams have some like 4 and 5 nights or 2 and 3 nights type of situation, where towards on a Saturday seems like a nice day for them to get some rest, skip shoot around. So it's a situation where we should keep an eye on near lock. There's a bunch of teams on the slate. It's been a busy schedule for the NBA post Christmas, so it wouldn't shock me if we get another what the fuck Saturday slate like we've been getting this Saturday season.
Yep, absolutely. And it's not like the injury reports are doing us any favors. A lot of question marks, a lot of moving parts to this slate as usual. So, there's going to be some changes between now and the shows that you guys watch later and when lock rolls around. So make sure you're coming back, tuning in for those shows later on today, paying attention to all the news that breaks. We've got our premium Discord. We've got News God sending out all the information that you need. So stay tuned, stay dialed in. It's because these things are going to change. But let's dive into this one. First game on deck out of our 8-game slate. We've got the Cleveland Cavaliers going into Chicago as 2.5-point favorites, 225-point total on deck. Starting with the away side, what are we liking from the Cavaliers? Looks like Darius Garland is potentially questionable, but it seems like something he's likely to play through. If I remember correctly, he's got a thumb thing, but it's a thumb thing and he didn't practice yesterday. So he was the question mark. And then Evan Mobley seemed like he was more likely to play because he hasn't missed a game and it's just a little bit of general soreness. So what are we seeing from the Cavs in general here?
Yeah, no, this Cavs team taking on a Chicago team on a back end of a back-to-back. Cleveland should be a great tournament team to target. Chicago's going to be playing 2 games in a row, while this Cleveland team should be rested. If there's no Garland, I'll have a lot of interest in Mitchell, but And then we might see Karis LeVert enter the starting lineup potentially there. Keep an eye on that situation, how that breaks down. But Mitchell and Garland look like solid tournament plays, especially Garland. You can get above the field on him. Pretty much across the board, have no issues there. 3-point bonus on DraftKings makes a lot of sense. While the front court and Mobley and Allen, I prefer Allen across the board here. Allen comes in at $6,500, $6,900, and $26 on Yahoo. While Mobley, certainly a fine option to go to tournaments. He was very impressive last time out. I definitely think Allen might have a slightly higher upside. Mobley's usage will definitely go up if there's no Garland. So that's another situation where we can go there with the Garland situation. But Garland goes, still have interest in Mobley. I know Kevin Love continues to get ownership throughout this week. I'm always more in a situation to look elsewhere. I know he's an excellent fantasy point per minute guy. I mean, throughout his whole career, we love going to Kevin Love when he's going to play 30 plus minutes, but I don't see that situation happening today. Sure, if you want to go to him in tournaments, if he's kind of your last guy in, I won't fault you, but I just think we can look elsewhere. Guys who are priced similarly to him, but have a higher upside here. But a solid team. The starters minus Lamar Stevens look like great guys to get above the field on. I have no issues if you want to get aggressively above the field on the Cavs tonight.
Yeah, and I think especially if we get one or both of those players out, I think that'll create even more opportunities. If you get the situation with no Mobley, does that give you a little bit more interest in Kevin Love with the expectation of maybe a handful more minutes trickling his way? We've got him at 20 right now, and he's not really popping through, but he is, like you said, a very good point per minute performer and fairly cheap for that. So if we saw an increased opportunity for him, would that draw your eye toward Kevin Love?
A little bit. It's just a huge slate, right? I mean,
yeah,
and on a slate like this, you're hoping for high 20s from Kevin Love. He certainly has that in his bag. But that's I like going to Kevin Love when he's sub 5% owned compared to the potential mid-teens ownership. So we got to see how that ends up going around come lock.
Normal. Yeah, with Mobley out there, normal situation right now, we're projecting him for 14% ownership on DK, 4,200 power forward center on that site. On FanDuel, only around 10%. But you're right. Yeah, if those were more in the the 5-8% range, it would be a little bit more compelling, and that would only go up if we gave him more expectation of playing time and everything. Last one on the Cavs, you did mention LeVert there as a 0.77 FanDuel point per minute player, 0.80 on the DK board per minute this season. How much interest do you have in him? We've got him projected for 25.1 minutes right now, and he's not at all really relevant. Say that spiked, he enters the starting lineup, it spikes to like 32, 34. How much more interested do you become in him with the expectation of 9-10 additional minutes?
Yeah, no, he's definitely been like taking the biggest hit, the most step back, I guess, take a back seat to Mitchell being in the picture this season. And the data shows it, right? He's just not going to get much usage sharing the court. With Mitchell and Garland, you definitely need one of those guys to be out to go to LeVert in confidence. If you want to sprinkle some of them in at 4,300 on DraftKings, sure. On FanDuel, it's a little bit more difficult. I think that's a price tag a little too high for my liking. $15 on Yahoo's I think there are better options than him. Keep an eye on the news though. If LeVert's for some reason, if one of Mitchell and Garland, one of the backcourt guys are out, definitely can consider going to LeVert. Keep an eye for future. We're nearing a Ricky Rubio return, and that's just going to muddy the whole backcourt situation a little bit more. So it's a little
name I haven't thought about in a minute.
Yeah, it's a little difficult to go to LeVert today.
Great. Hadn't hit my radar yet that was about to happen. Let's hit a couple quick super chats here. We've got a couple excellent ones. Really appreciate it from both these guys. Donnie Boone and Brad Wright. Donnie sends in $50 saying hit 25 hundo on Prize Picks last night. Grateful for the information you guys provide. Happy New Year. Donnie, Happy New Year back at you, buddy. That's a great win. Congratulations on our sponsor site too. So way to tie it in to the show to bring us all around, making the sponsors very happy, I'm sure. But that's just a great example, gang. You can win a bunch of money on these other sites like Prize Picks, like some of our other sponsors. It is a great way to make money, and there's not a ton of focus on it. A lot of the sharks really focus on DraftKings and FanDuel, and they're not playing sites like Prize Picks. You can make a lot of cash over there. The other one, Brad Wright sends in $100. Big win in the NHL last night. Thanks to the Stokastic team. This is the place to be. Gang. Happy New Year, everyone. Brad, Happy New Year back to you, buddy. Congratulations on the win in NHL last night. If you can tell me what's going on with my guy, Alexis Lafreniere from the Rangers, I would really love to know because I'm starting to get a little concerned. But congrats on the big win. Our NHL team, if I know this is a basketball show, but if you guys don't play NHL, and I typically don't have time for it, unfortunately, but I would love to jump in myself. So I'm going to try and take this advice. Maybe this will be my New Year's resolution. Start playing NHL and using the Stokastic tools and jumping into the Discord and paying attention to those guys. They're killing it, and they are excellent at it. They're on top of all the line changes, all the info you need. They make it really, really easy. So congrats to those two guys on the super chats. We appreciate it. Ryan, let's jump into the Chicago side of things here. Zach LaVine, nice big night last night, 57.6 on the FanDuel board, coming back at just 7,400, kind of appealing to me, drawing 15% optimal rate on that site. He's interesting at 7,700, but not showing the same probability marks on DK. What do we think about LaVine? And then what other pieces? Because the rest of this Bulls team is just kind of looking like, yeah, these guys are going to be on the court, but nobody really shining through is really special tonight. What are you seeing from the Bulls?
Yeah, no, this Bulls team is going to be on the back end of a back-to-back. Like I said earlier, if LaVine plays, certainly you can definitely go to LaVine. I know it's a Cleveland matchup, might be a little bit more difficult than it was against Detroit, but it's a back end of back-to-back. We know the knee soreness situation with LaVine. I do think there's a chance he might sit, but if he plays, I think you can definitely get to him in tournaments. A little bit under the field, maybe on FanDuel, just because he had just a monster game. Recency bias might be there. You might look to zig while the field zags type of situation here. I still think you can play DeRozan, but in limited fashion at that elevated price tag. $41 on Yahoo is okay. LaVine looks great at 29. The rest of this team, it's Vooch. It's like kind of their big three, and it's roulette with everyone else. Ayo Dosunmu is certainly a guy you can take a chance on. He's been playing a lot more minutes of late but I do think it's kind of a difficult situation. 38 and 3,900 for Caruso and Dosunmu. I think one of those guys certainly can be good. A little priced up over there on FanDuel, not as interesting as it is on DraftKings.
Does the downstream impact, if LaVine doesn't go, does the downstream impact go toward those two players, mostly Caruso and Ayo? Maybe a little bit toward Goran Dragic with a couple of
I definitely think Kobe White becomes certainly a more option as well. I think all of those guys could split those minutes up, or one of them can certainly be fantastic. I think you can get three guys playing high 20s minutes type of situation. Sumo a bit more, Sumu's usage, DeRozan's usage would all go up, even Vooch. So that's a situation to keep an eye on. This team's on a back end of back-to-back. Expect news. Expect some ownership pivots and some usage to be shifted around as someone sits from this team.
All right. And it looks like we just got a crucial update in on the boom bust. So I'm going to drop a quick update in here as we do that. And we're getting a note from behind the scenes to make sure we run an update. So I'm not sure what changed, but we'll find out as we go along. Let's move on to the next game while we're doing that. We've got the New York Knicks going into Houston. Knicks favored by 4.5, playing in a game with a 224 total in Houston. Not an outrageously high total for a game involving the Rockets. What are we seeing from this one, starting with the Knicks side of things? We know we've been missing Jalen Brunson the last couple of games. Looks like he might be trying to talk his way into this one. It seems like there's a little bit of a buzz about that one. He seemed close to be going last time out. No RJ Barrett still, no Obi Toppin still from the Knicks. So what are we expecting with Brunson? And then what are like the two paths if he does go and doesn't go, as far as the Quickleys, McBrides, and so forth of the world?
Yeah, no, it's been with no Brunson this past week. It's been the IQ show. Emmanuel Quickly has been very impressive. And as that price tag has gone up, and it's priced appropriately, I think it's 6,700 and 5,700. And as crazy as it sounds, I still think you can play him if Brunson's out. Now, if Brunson's in, Brunson looks like a solid option against this Houston team. Keep an eye on a minutes limit type of situation, but it's against Houston. It's like a cake matchup for this Knicks team. I definitely think you can play quickly at this elevated price tag if there's no Brunson. You certainly can play Randall at 10-1 and 9-9. He has been a usage monster of late, a fantasy monster of late. I think he's certainly a player you can go to today. Quentin Grimes, another guy where you get the 3-point bonus on DraftKings. I like that $5,800 price tag. They're just going to play these guys a ton of minutes, man. We can just count on those minutes, that confident minutes situation for this team. And I know we all went to Miles McBride last time, and he was awfully disappointing. And if there is no Brunson, you can certainly go back to him. I do expect a better fantasy game against this Houston team. And then one thing that was very shocking to see, we saw Evan Fournier. Like
Yeah.
it was crazy. They play this guy, what, 25 mil a year to sit on the bench, and they finally dusted him off the bench and they played him. And now if Fournier plays, he's cheap. I know the minutes are going to be difficult to go there, but I think you can sprinkle some of them in. I don't know. We'll see what it all comes down to Brunson. If Brunson's in, I know we still have Barrett out type of situation here, but if Brunson ends, it would take away some usage and maybe a guy from the rotation. We're just taking advantage of the lack of wings this team has. I know Reddish is there. Even Reddish is there. I know he's not in the rotation of late, but you never know what Tibbs could do with the situation here.
Yeah, Tibbs got me on that one yesterday. I was on the strategy show in the morning saying, it's Fournier and Reddish buried at the end of the bench. These guys don't play. They're not going to play. But if one plays, I think it'll be Reddish and yada, yada, yada. And sure enough, Fournier got the minutes and scored, 10, 11 points. But Julius Randle does have some appeal to me. I think, regardless of situation, he's just playing really, really well lately. 1.19 fantasy points per minute for the season, 1.38 over his last three, 63.7 in 42 minutes. So he gets a ton of minutes. He's putting the ball in the basket. He's averaging 27 plus real life points for December. He's in the top 20, courtesy of the New York Post article that I read earlier today. That's why this is in my head. But he's gotten himself into the top 20 in the league and scoring at 23 and change a game. He's been back to that good version of Julius Randle. And 9,900 power forward center on FanDuel, 10-1 on DK. He's priced around appropriately, but he's still pushing through in our probability metrics. So I'll definitely continue chasing the math on that one. I like that spot. What about on the other side of this one? What are we looking to get to from the Rockets side of things?
Yeah, Rockets team is always intriguing for me in tournaments. I always feel like one of these guys can have a tournament upside, in Porter Jr., Jalen Green, and Şengün. But I got to give credit to Jabari Smith Jr., the second overall pick, has been playing much better of late. $4,900. I certainly like going to him. I do think his point per minute of production has increased over the past couple of weeks. I mean, at some point, post-Christmas, you do see some of these guys translate into better NBA players, a little bit more routine under their belt, understanding what the NBA regime is like for these rookies who have struggled. Last year, it was Jalen Green. He took a long time for him to figure it out, but look, he's been pretty awesome offensively since then. The last couple months for Jalen Green last year were great. I think Jabari Smith Jr. will have that type of uptick going forward. So I just want to ride that price tag as it goes up. 4,900 on DraftKings is a little bit low for me. And so I like getting above the field on Jabari Smith. 6K on FanDuel. I think that's priced appropriately for him right now for his role and usage. Porter Jr. and Jalen Green always have tournament ceilings to them just because of the sure usage they get. Jalen Green, where you get the 3-point bonus on DraftKings, certainly a guy you can target. Porter Jr., you like the way he facilitates. Maybe he finds a way to have one of those double-double games, a little bit more outlier shooting efficiency games at that elevated 7.6 and 8K price tag. That seems like priced appropriately type of situation here. But Şengün, another guy, you're really hoping for him to have a strong double-double game and have a good offensive game for you to really get there at 6K on DraftKings, 6,500 on FanDuel, where you can only roster one on this center. Not as appealing, but certainly on DraftKings, you can take some chances with Şengün.
Yeah, I think that's an appealing spot. And then the Jalen Green one is kind of interesting. He's priced nicely at 6,900, 6,600, but he's getting a lot of attention as compares to his optimal and ownership rates. So I'll be curious to see where that comes up as I run lineup builds later in the day and how things look. I'm hoping that maybe something pops up that draws some of that public ownership away. It's not that I really, sweat individual ownership too much, but when we get into a situation where it's doubling up the probability of him being an optimal play, doubling up his probability of giving me a ceiling score, then I do start to look at it a little bit. So people ask about how we weigh ownership. That's typically how I'll look at that. Does an ownership like the 20% versus a 10% optimal change your opinion on a player like him? How do you typically handle something like that? Or will you just take what you get him?
Yeah, I think Jalen Green's a type of guy who I think his he does have a pretty solid boom potential in him, just in his player profile type of situation. So for me, it's like I'd like to get above the field type of situation with Jalen Green on both sides, just because of the offensive shot attempts he gets up. If you look at it, it's like throughout the season, there's so many games he takes more than 20 shot attempts. So that upside alone at that price tag, you'll take that type of usage night in, night out at low ownership.
Yeah, and that's typically the thing. You want to you don't mind the weight of ownership. You don't mind being negatively leveraged on an individual basis on guys who, regardless, can give you ceiling. Regardless, do have a Giannis style median projection. It's just like, all right, we'll take it. What doesn't matter. We'll get different elsewhere. Where you don't want to get underwater on some of these plays is on the low usage, lower probability type guys who just happen to be stumbling into starters minutes, but still are a Deuce McBride style. 0.6 whatever fantasy points per minute. Those are the guys where sometimes you can get yourself a little bit upside down. So it's important to pay attention to those columns, but not get too far afield just based on individual ownership. Let's take a quick look at some business and then we'll move on to the next game. I forgot to tell you guys about the Hall of Fame. I think everybody probably knows about it right now, but real quick, if you place in the top 3 in a contest with over 5,000 people and you have the Stokastic logo as your avatar on one of the major sites, tweet it to @Stokastic HOF. That gets you shouted out on our Hall of Fame segments. It also gets you a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. So pretty cool little way to pad your wins there. So make sure you guys are doing that. More importantly, make absolutely sure that you are taking advantage of our BetMGM risk-free opportunity here. What you get out of this is 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum and a risk-free wager at BetMGM up to $1,000 if you're creating a new account over at BetMGM. There's all sorts of details in the promo code and the promo code below, and the promo code probably below, but there's all sorts of details in the description below this video. So check that out. But basically, you need to create a free Stokastic membership using a form or go log into your free Stokastic membership. You'll see a big BetMGM button that pops up. It'll appear after registering or logging in. Click that. Go through the steps over there with BetMGM, creating a sportsbook account. You need to start with at least $10. So if you've got $10 burning a hole in your pocket, or if you've got $1,000 burning a hole in your pocket, put it in over there because it's a risk-free bet. That risk-free gets paid out in site credits back. So I believe the way that EMAC was describing it, you get 4 different credits that you have to use within a certain amount of time as your cash back, your risk-free version of that. So you're getting multiple shots, multiple bites at the apple for your money here. Make sure you're doing that. You come back around from the other end of that process, you're getting your 2 free months of Stokastic Plus, which has, I don't know, a couple $100 value, $300, $400, $500 value. If you think of it in terms of the opportunity, what it creates for you to be able to win, it's got infinite value, endless value. So check out BetMGM, check out Stokastic. Make sure you're taking advantage of that great deal. Ryan, let's talk about the Battle of Texas. Dallas Mavericks going into San Antonio, 7.5-point favorites, 231-point total. Kind of an interesting game. Obviously, the massive spot with Luka Doncic. What do we like from the Dallas side of things? Is there anything you like that's not named Luka on the Dallas side?
You're certainly going to love Luka. I mean, across the board on this slate, there'll certainly be value to open up on this Saturday in the NBA. Now, everyone else price appropriately. Christian Wood at 8K. The block rate of him has been insane. I don't expect that to sustain whatsoever. He's had like double-digit block attempts every single game. Not double-digit block attempts, at least 2 block shots for a while over the last 4 or 5 games, it feels like. Now, Wood at 8K and 8.3 against the San Antonio team. It seems like a spot I'd be willing to go under. If you want to play him, you can certainly play him on Yahoo at $29. While guys like Dinwiddie and then Hardaway Jr., kind of priced appropriately. Dinwiddie has been very disappointing in terms of getting that upside consistently. Man, it's just tough to play with Luka in terms of DFS and trying to find the one guy who's going to pop off. And especially where their salary has been positioned right now, it's very difficult to go to another Dallas player in confidence. Look, it's a San Antonio matchup. Can Luka be in the facilitation role where he gets 15 assists and like gets a bunch of wide open threes, say a Tim Hardaway Jr., Reggie Bullock, which certainly can happen, but it's so hard to go there in any sort of confidence. A team that I think I'd be willing to get under the field on. This team is getting more ownership on FanDuel than DraftKings, so keep that in mind. But on DK right now, it's tough. It's tough out to go to anyone in confidence besides Luka.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It doesn't look like anybody's really shining through in our probability marks. A couple of these guys here just kind of are who they are type projections with Timmy, Spencer Dinwiddie, Christian Wood, and they're all a little bit popular on the FanDuel board like you're getting at. So I don't really mind leaving any one of those guys on the table and let the field have them for the most part. They'll end in a few lineups. But the guy who obviously is going to be interesting, everybody, is the guy who's averaged 90 fantasy points over his last 2 games. That's Luka Doncic. It does look like he's got a little bit of a question mark as far as an ankle. They're saying, probable with ankle soreness. So let's say, all right, Luka in, we're obviously going that route, even at 12-1, 12-4. Any real pushback on that?
Pushback on Luka?
Yeah.
I certainly
Assuming
think
he goes full health.
Yeah, I mean,
Play him
look,
if you can get him, right?
yeah, Luka's
Yeah.
playing high 30s minutes, barring foul trouble, blowout. Luka should be able to do whatever he wants against the Spurs team. I
Yeah,
like going to Luka.
65 to 90 fantasy points on the table for you.
You can certainly make an argument that he's not like a starting point stud. There are some other studs in great matchups, like the Brooklyn Charlotte matchup, certainly intriguing. We've touched on Randall with no Brunson, so you can make an argument if you don't want to play Luka, and I don't think I'd say anything type of situation. I think Luka's a great play if you get to him. I don't think he's a starting point, but he's an awesome.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. A guy that, all right, looks like as I'm building this lineup, here's value. Here's two mid-range stars, and I still got a lot of money left. Maybe I plug him in and see what I can do with that lineup. If you're a hand builder out there, if we get the event that weird Saturday, New Year's Eve, sore ankle, et cetera, Luka decides to sit out, doesn't go. What's the downstream impact? Who are we looking to? Does Kemba get any minutes? Does Frankie Smokes get any minutes? Which of these crappy former Knicks do you want?
We saw Frankie Smokes get the start last time with no Bullock. So if Luka is out, this whole team becomes a priority. And I do think getting above the field on going from Dinwiddie, Hardaway, Christian Wood, those three would definitely be the first guys to target. Then you can rotate around with Kemba Walker. I think Kemba Walker potentially would get the start. We saw Kemba Walker get the start last time when Luka was out. I think was it last Saturday or 2 Saturdays ago? That Kemba got the start. So
I want to say last week sometime, right around the Christmas holiday. But
so keep an eye on that situation. This team would become a priority if Luka's out. Maybe he's going to need some recovery beers on this Saturday. We'll see.
He looks like a New Year's party type of guy, just
definitely.
I feel like
Luka's definitely hitting that hookah, hitting that hitting those beers, hitting those shots. He's doing it all. I mean, Luka's definitely. He might be one of the underrated guys who you want to party with New Year's Eve.
Yeah, you can see him like 11:59, shirtless, lampshade on his head, just causing a big ruckus as the ball's falling, a bunch of shots of tequila or whatever. I could see it. Let's see. I think we've talked about both sides, or we talked about the Dallas side up and down. San Antonio, nobody really standing out on the DK board. You're getting a little bit of probability around Keldon, around Trey Jones on the FanDuel board. Is there anything interesting from the San Antonio side? Looks like Devin Vassell is carrying a potential injury designation into this one.
Yeah, in a pace down spot for San Antonio. If Devin Vassell plays, certainly go to him. If Vassell is out, Keldon and Trey, you definitely look to them. But Jeremy Sohan has been playing a very impressive late, and his fantasy production has gone up since he came back from injury. And I think this might be for real. I think Sohan was a lottery pick, and he's been playing much better of late. And I definitely think this price tag, I know it seems like sticker shock in the productions, like where is this coming from? Just like a young player just figuring it out type of situation. So I know we have a very small sample on him in terms of like NBA production. It's not great, but he's been really impressive over the last couple of weeks. So, and another guy who I think that assist rate has been going up. So I do think that's here to stay type of situation. Another guy, the San Antonio team, Popovich has been very, very difficult to understand what he's doing with the Acapulco's minutes. He's had some very interesting pregame press conferences about what those minutes and when those minutes are going to be full. So I don't know if it's like they're just like holding him down until they trade him type of situation, why those minutes aren't going up. But at some point, when Jakob Poeltl is going to play 30 minutes, he's just a little too cheap. He's priced like he's playing 25 minutes, which he currently is. But there'll be a game here or there where he's going to play mid-30s, and we want to be on it. And we might not know when that happens just because of what Popovich has been saying of late. But Novoselic being out, a team that's down a guy with high usage, certainly look to Keldon. I think at 6'8" on FanDuel looks like a strong play there, as the ownership indicates so.
Yeah, I'm expecting to see a good amount of Keldon land in lineups as I'm doing lineup builds later with his multi-forward eligibility and just the way that he's going to kind of fit in from that upper mid-range at 6,800. I think I'm going to end up with quite a bit of them unless things change. And that's another player, like I don't really sweat that he's negatively leveraged, 26% owned. He's around a fantasy point per minute guy with upside for more. I do think the sneakiness of Poeltl, if you get that game where he plays more than 30 minutes, could definitely be interesting. He's a guy I haven't gone away from yet. I'm still getting him and still taking him 1.18 FanDuel points per minute for the season, 1.16 on the DK board, 32.4 FanDuel points in 28.6 minutes. Give me that 32-minute night, and we're getting a nice little score for our $6,700 there. So I like that call a lot. Let's do one more, then we'll knock out business, and we need to hit the gas pedal a little bit because we got to punch out at 55. So Brooklyn Nets going into Charlotte, 7-point favorites for New Jersey. Woof, taking us back. 7-point favorites for Brooklyn over Charlotte. Big total in this one, 237-point total. What do we like from the Brooklyn side? Looks like Ben Simmons carrying a little bit of an injury designation, but seems probable to play.
Yeah, the Ben Simmons situation, keep an eye on that, what's going to happen there. But KD, Kyrie in the Charlotte spot. Love getting above the field on these guys. I know their price tag has gone up, but it's a Charlotte team, man. This game is going to go up and down. That's where you kind of want to target a low-owned stud like Kevin Durant, where he can be super efficient. Kevin Durant looks outstanding at 10-4 and 10-6, $47 on Yahoo. Right in the thick of it for MVP consideration yet again. KD has been awesome, as this Brooklyn Nets team overall has been. Kyrie, since they've been back, I think they've gone 15-3. They started 1-5, and I believe that now they're 22-12 or something like that. Yep. So this Nets team, as good as advertised, I've been very patient with this team. I like them to get out of the East to play the Clippers just because everyone is down on them. But I think with Jacques Vaughn has controlled this locker room. KD and Kyrie look great. Claxton in this up-tempo matchup, 6-1 on DraftKings. He comes in at 6,800 on FanDuel. 6-1 price tag, certainly more manageable on DraftKings than the 6,800 where you only play 1 on FanDuel. Now, if Simmons plays a matchup in this type of tempo, certainly can find a fantasy upside there. You're really hoping for him to facilitate, grab rebounds. You're not going to get the offensive usage for him, but he has an upside against the Charlotte team. It's kind of like the Houston Rockets of the East. It's just going to be a ton of offense on both sides of the situation here.
Yeah, this one's definitely going to be going up and down and providing quite a bit of scoring. I think I'm with you on KD. What about Ben Simmons? 7,200 point guard power forward eligibility on FanDuel, and only like 6% owned against his 8% optimal, his 8% boom score probability. It seems like based on our numbers, he's probably priced appropriately, but not all that popular for a guy who's putting up 1.06 FanDuel points per minute, projected to play 28, 29 minutes, somewhere around there. Similar story for him on the DK slate. Are you getting any Simmons in your builds here?
I think on DraftKings, it makes a lot more sense. The 7,200, I think, is priced appropriately for this role on the Nets, right? He's not going to be, he's like the 4th or 5th option on offense, like just because of the way his role is, right? He's there to play great defense, facilitate to guys like Kyrie and KD, making sure they get the open shots. And maybe you're hoping he gets like the defensive peripheral stats on FanDuel to find a way to pay that off, but tough to go there in any significant fashion. But just because of the price tag, 7,200 seems like the right price tag for him. And this team isn't really missing any guys, so that's why Simmons kind of like falls out of the picture on FanDuel.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. And yeah, I'm with you on this. Just the general nature of this Nets team as far as real basketball. Like the New York tabloids were all just, ready to set the ship on fire and jump over the side after like 2 weeks of the season. And now all of a sudden they've got it turned around. If you look at the roster, just like all the veteran bench depth that they've got, this has now become a deep team. So I like their chances. If everybody stays healthy, I think interesting team at least. On the Charlotte side of things, looks like, most of the key pieces are going to be here. No DSJ, I think, he's at least on one injury report. Looks like we've got him projected for 16, but we'll clean that up. We'll see what happens there. But really, there's the LaMelo show, and then there's everybody else on this team. What are you seeing from Charlotte here?
I mean, LaMelo Ball, 10K on DraftKings. You can certainly play him. I love that $9,300 price tag for him on FanDuel. Certainly a spot where I'll be going to a LaMelo Ball in significant fashion. $39 on Yahoo looks great as well. It's Charlotte. It's LaMelo Ball show. And then my second favorite guy would be Gordon Hayward at 61 and 6,300. I know Terry Rozier has the upside where you get the 3-point bonus. I think he is a fine play to go to. I just like Hayward in the minutes he's been playing of late. Those minutes are like in the mid-30s. Rozier's been obviously came back from injury and had a really awful game last week, then bounced right back. So this Charlotte team, those are the 3 guys who I like going to against this Brooklyn team. Everyone else is a tricky situation here. No Kelly Oubre, right? So with no Oubre, I saw Jalen McDaniels play a bit more. JT Thor sometimes enters the rotation here. PJ Washington might get a little bit of those minutes when Kelly O's at the 4. No Tsunami Poppy means I think you just focus on the big 3 and Ball, Rozier, and Hayward. I know Mark Williams had an outstanding game last time out, like an insane game where he has now surpassed Nick Richards as the backup center. So Mark Williams, I don't know if I can go there. $3,500. It's intriguing. How do you feel about Mark Williams? I'm really curious.
He was what I had teed up to ask as my follow-up question. That was going to be, what do we think of him on DK? I don't think he's playable on FanDuel. 4,400. That's too much. I don't think I've got the security of enough minutes. 1.56 FanDuel points per minute in a small sample so far. 6 games, 11.4 minutes a night. 46.6 FanDuel points in 21.3 minutes the last time out. If you could promise me that outcome if he gets his 20 minutes tonight, then sure, fire it up. But I just can't expect that. I can't expect that performance, and I don't want to chew up my FanDuel center slot. As a tournament play here and there, a smattering of them, he's 5.8% likely to be optimal and only 3% owned on DK at 3,500. Yeah, with the ability to roster a second center in that util spot, I think you can get away with some shares as a tournament play. I wouldn't go completely overboard unless we got a big piece of news about his minutes, but I do think it's real in terms, or real-ish in terms of him being a talented kid. So yeah, kind of curious to watch him at least on DK. FanDuel, he's off the board unless something changes.
Yeah, I do think whatever Charlotte does with Mason Plumlee, Mark Williams should be starting for this team potentially by the end of the year.
Yeah, and that would make him, he'll start to get interesting at that point. That'll definitely change the picture there. But we got to pick up some time, so let's move on. We'll talk about our great sponsor, Prize Picks, real quick. If you guys just came into the room, you missed it, or somebody dropped a super chat earlier that he won $2,500 on Prize Picks last night using our picks, using the advice from the site, I'm sure, and just generally, that's what you can do over at Prize Picks. You can cash in pretty big time in contests that'll win you up to 10 times your entry fee if you get your 5-player card right. They've got daily prop-based contests. You're not playing against sharks. You're not playing against optimizers, not playing against people dropping 150 entries. It's you against Prize Picks, and you're just filling out these cards, picking your favorite props. We've got all sorts of projections over at the site, so you can fire up our different win rates from Odd Shopper or over at Stokastic and take a look down these probability columns and make your picks using our projections and use those to guide you. If you click the link on in our description below, you'll get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum and up to $100 deposit match bonus when you sign up and make a deposit as a first-time user over at Prize Picks. So if you guys are keeping track, between our sponsors, our great sponsors with Prize Picks and BetMGM, there's 3 months of free Stokastic Plus on the table. Plus, then go use those to win yourself a 4th one by entering the Hall of Fame. We've talked about a way to get most of 2023 or a quarter of 2023, a third of 2023 for free next year. I'm good at math. So make sure you're checking out Prize Picks regardless of how many months you want free of Stokastic. That'll get you one of them. You get a $100 deposit match bonus, and you're using your knowledge of multiple sports with cross-sport entries for the NHL, NBA, NFL. Baseball will be back before we know it. All sorts of stuff going on over there. Check out Prize Picks today. Let's talk about the ugly one. Detroit Pistons, 6.5-point favorites going into Minnesota to play the T-Wolves. A big shining piece at the top of the board, at least as of when I first updated this stuff for the day, was Naz Reid. I assume there was the expectation of no Rudy Gobert again. Looks like he's still there. I just want to make sure that was still true after the update. So we'll talk about Naz, but let's talk about the Detroit side of things first. Alec Burks standing at the top of the board on both sites, drawing a lot of attention. And then on the DK board, Sadiq Bey standing out with a lot of optimal rate, but not at all on the FanDuel board because he's priced at 6,000, and then relative salary wise, he's priced at 4,000 on DK. So very different play there. What do we like from Detroit?
Yeah, last night we saw the starting lineup of Ivy, Bogdanovich, Duran. I think Bey was in the starting lineup as well. And there's reports that I think at some point Corey Joseph was going to start, but he got shipped to the bench. And Alec Burks continues to be a usage monster in that second unit. You can certainly play him at $4,513 on Yahoo. Price too expensive, I think, at $5,800. I know he's been awesome of late, but I think it's a little too expensive for Alec Burks in this potential. I think his minutes, like ceilings, feels like 30 minutes. But I think you can. These guys look a lot more favorable on DraftKings than they do on FanDuel, just like the way they're priced. You can play any of these Pistons starters on DraftKings. FanDuel, I like going to Ivy and Bogdanovich compared to Burks. Duran's been impressive of late since entering that starting lineup, but I would like him to be more aggressive offensively for us to be more reliable on a DFS production type of side. 5,400 and 6,200 on FanDuel. He just seems priced appropriately, not too cheap, not too high. I think we can solidly expect him to play high 20s minutes, low 30s minutes, hoping for a double-double. I'd like him to get more blocks in his fantasy game for us to take advantage of that FanDuel price tag. Tough to go to him. We can only play one. Marvin Bagley returned to the rotation, so that takes away some of the minutes from Isaiah Stewart, some usage from other guys in that second unit. So this Detroit team is getting a lot of ownership right now across the board. It really might be, I might just be looking at Ivy and Bogdanovich and then Burks type of situation here. Ivy was really impressive last night, put up 22 real life points on, I want to say 6 to 10 shooting, which is pretty impressive to do.
That's a nice, tight, efficient night. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on just the nature of this team. Looking at him, there's one guy on this team who's above 1 fantasy point per minute on the season. That's Alec Burks. Oddly, I just don't love going to these pieces when they're getting a lot of attention, and they seem to be today. I'll have a smattering of Burks. I'll have a smattering of Bojan, maybe some IV, but on FanDuel, yeah, not a ton of appeal here. It would be a different story on DK. There's a lot more meat on the bone over on DK. Drink. So yeah, I think you can get to it more over there. Let's flip to the other side of this one in the interest of picking up some time. Naz Reid, like I said, coming in 53.9% optimal on our FanDuel board, 80.6% optimal on DK because he's a $4,700 power forward and center over there. It looks like we are projecting Rudy Gobert in right now. So this is just pure Naz Reid at 25 minutes kind of numbers that we're seeing. What do we think of Naz? Do we expect that kind of output if Rudy goes, and then it's just smash button Naz if Rudy doesn't, I imagine it.
I got to be a little bit aggressive with my stance here. I think if Rudy goes, no interest in Naz. If Rudy's out, love Naz type of situation. Look, I think Naz certainly could have been in play if Slow-Mo was out. That's Kyle Anderson, but Kyle Anderson, with him expected to play, it just takes away some minutes that Naz could be playing on the court with Gobert, and that certainly has happened this season. But yeah, Naz Reid getting a ton of ownership. We'll get a ton of ownership if Gobert's out, but it makes a lot of sense against this Detroit team. Naz should be able to feast if there's no Gobert. Now, if Gobert's in, type of situation, kind of like the regular rotation we've been seeing with no Cat, like Anthony Edwards, love D'Angelo Russell at that price tag, 7-4 and 7-1 on DK and FanDuel respectively against the Detroit team. Guards can definitely feast against Detroit, and Russell can certainly do that for sure. I have no interest sprinkling in some Jalen Noel as well. He's getting some ownership as well. 4,200. He's in that Kevin Love price range where I certainly think you might get that. I might get similar ownership on Noel, but I think Noel might have a higher upside in this matchup against Detroit. So I like going to Noel in some fashion. We'll see what that ownership value looks like. But key news here is what happens with Gobert. If Gobert plays, you certainly can play Gobert. I think Gobert is in a great spot against Detroit. But now Gobert's out. It's just a Naz Reid situation. We're going to go to him kind of as a building block on the slate.
Yep, absolutely. If Gobert's out, I will just shamelessly have Naz Reid in most of my center shares, and I'll be pretty happy about it regardless of where his ownership lands. He'll just look very, very good there. Let's move on to the next one on the board. Philadelphia 76ers going into OKC, 228.5 total. Sixers favored by 4.5. Tyrese Maxey came back to this team. Looks like he is carrying a probable tag. Nobody else on the injury report that I'm looking at. On the other side, Poku, Deng, Robinson, Earl still banged up, but nobody looking questionable. What do we like from the Philly side to start off?
On the Philly side, see, this is the back end of a back-to-back, right? When they lost to this a New Orleans team last night, keep an eye on the Embiid Harden situation. I know Doc has been playing these guys a lot of minutes. Seems like a situation against OKC we might see one of those guys sit. Tyrese Maxey also did he come back from injury last night?
Yeah.
He did, right?
Limited minutes, 18.7. They announced a minutes restriction before the game, put up 10.7 FanDuel points.
Yeah, so keep an eye on that situation. He's also on a back end of back-to-back, right? So with Maxey, Potentially could sit, right? Like, just coming back from an injury. He's priced way up. He's not really in play because that minutes limit's just not going to, it's really difficult to go there at that type of minutes limit. Embiid and Harden look fantastic if they play 10-3 and 11-4, but Maxey definitely eats into their usage if he's going to go there. So we're going to see a price correction on these guys. I do think they will drop a little bit just because of Maxey taking up some usage. He was awesome before he got hurt, but certainly tournament ceiling upside against OKC certainly on the table for both Embiid and Harden. Tobias Harris just always kind of falls out of the picture for me. I think he'll fall out of the picture yet again today. I think 6.5 on FanDuel. If you want to play him, that's the site to play him on. But tough for him to get super ceilings with Embiid and Harden. But against an OKC team, certainly has a path.
Yeah, if I'm looking to book 30 median points for my 65 hundo, I can reliably plug Tobias Harris into either forward spot. Just move along. That's kind of who he is. On the other side of this one, the guys who have the ball in their hands the most, Gideon SGA looking the most relevant on both sites. Anything really have appeal from this wacky OKC rotation outside of those guys for you? The Jalen Williams or the Jalen Williams of the world? Anybody like that?
Yeah, keep an eye on who starts for this team, right? So last time we got both Jalen Williams starting, Jalen Williams the center, and then Jalen Williams the wing player. Jalen Williams the center, I know it was disappointing fantasy-wise. I do think he has potential fantasy upside if he stays out of foul trouble against Embiid, which is really difficult to see. I mean, they're going to have to throw as many bodies they can to contain Embiid. But outside of him, SGA and Giddey, I think Giddey's becoming more and more in play, 7K on both sides, and SGA at 10-4. I think he's priced now appropriately. There was a time where SGA was sub 10K this season. We were definitely rostering him. I just think he's priced right. I don't think he's a priority or he's exciting. I just think I'll just maybe potentially fall into the field. He's not getting much ownership. Look, does SGA have 60-point ceiling? Can find a way to get it done? Certainly can. But against the Philly spot, I'd be willing to look elsewhere. And then the OKC rotation, the rest of the rotation, my guess is as good as yours. It's getting they're getting a little shorthanded, but even then, Mark Dagnall's trying to find a way to screw with this.
Yeah, and just based on how the probabilities are looking, I'll have a smattering of guys like SGA, but nobody really going to come up unless something really changes around, like a min price Jalen Williams. He's not even min price; he's 4,100 now. Power forward only on the FanDuel board, 35 on DK. That could potentially make him a little bit more interesting there. So see what happens with that starting lineup with the news there. But let's move on real quick, gang. There's a link in the description below this video to jump over to Stokastic. If you're not a subscriber already and you're sitting here itching to check out the NBA tools, you want to get behind the scenes, see what all this boom bust stuff is all about, see how good the ownership projections actually are, click that link. 3 free days of NBA. Couldn't be easier. All right, let's move on. Next game on deck. We got 2 to go. We got about 5 minutes. New Orleans Pelicans, 6-point dogs going into Memphis. 234 on the board as the total in this one. Herb Jones, questionable. Larry Nance, I know, has been banged up a little bit. What are we seeing on the New Orleans side?
Yeah, keep it on the Nance situation. When Nance is out, you can get a little bit more minutes for Valanciunas. That's certainly on the table for a Joe Val. But I think another option here is to keep in mind that CJ McCollum had a historic game last night. I think he had 9 or 11 3-pointers, something outrageous amount of threes. I think he set a franchise record. And if you want to play McCollum, you can play him at $35 on Yahoo. But that's really about it. 8.6 on FanDuel, 9K on DraftKings. Not my preference. He's not going to get much ownership at all. Zion is the guy who I want to go to. 9.9 and 10K. Zion's a beast. We got to keep playing Zion. As long as Brandon Ingram is out, the offense goes through him. He's absolutely insane. I think Zion could have a massive game yet again. I know we'll touch on Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr., and how many fouls he might pick up in his first rotation. Might be at 5. Who knows? But Zion is absolutely insane. But the rest of the league is saying Zion is playing football, and we're just playing basketball. That's just how much of a behemoth of a man Zion is. He looks great. I think you can certainly play Trey Murphy at 5,200. If there's no Herb Jones, potentially more minutes. Being solidified, I know they share the court a lot, but one less wing player there. Herb is out. Najee Marshall is another guy you could sprinkle in type of situation.
All right. Yeah, I think totally with you on the Zion front. He's just been an absolute force out there, and I'm happy to get him where I can. 10,000, a lot to spend, but definitely going to be at least trying to get to him. 11 of 16, by the way, for CJ McCollum from 3 last night. Pretty awesome performance there. On the Memphis side, you mentioned a player that I'm typically very interested in, despite his minutes limitations, his problem staying on the court. That's Triple J with his 1.37 FanDuel points per minute. Ja Morant, obviously always interesting at 1.43 per minute. The guy who's really standing tall on the FanDuel board, because he costs 6,100, shooting guard, small forward, 35.9% optimal, and super popular Desmond Bane. What are we seeing from Memphis here real quick?
Love Desmond Bane on FanDuel. I think that's a fantastic price point. I think 6,100 on FanDuel, another place where you can start your lineups with Bane. I think he looks great. I think he might be $2,000 too cheap if he's going to be playing mid-30s minutes. He was awesome before he got hurt. I expect him to return to that type of production fairly soon. Might as well ride that price tag up. Price more appropriately at 6,700 for the way he's been producing coming off this injury on DraftKings. I think he's certainly a great option to go to there. Morant now sub 10K with all these guys healthy makes a lot more sense. I think that's more of his price point with when this team is healthy. I think you can certainly play him in tournaments. I know it's completely fine to go to Morant. He has a huge upside. 10-1 on FanDuel certainly can get there. I wouldn't argue there. The talking point is Triple J. I think $6,400 Triple J. I like playing Triple J. I know I just said he might pick up a ton of fouls. He has 40-point fantasy upside. He just needs to keep his hands to himself. It is by far one of the most frustrating things in all of DFS and all my years playing is watching this guy get in foul trouble. He's an outstanding talent, but man, he needs to be able to, if this team wants to get like a deep playoff run, it comes down to his foul trouble. That's just how ridiculous it sounds.
Yeah. Rate wise, he looks like a star caliber player. He should be a $9,000-$10,000 player. We just need him to be able to stay on the court. We got him projected 26.9 tonight. He looks pretty good. We will see how much he gets, but we got to move on. We've got like a minute and a half to clean up this last game. Miami Heat 3.5 point dogs going into Utah, 224-point total. What are we liking from the Heat side of things with the clock in mind?
Yeah. So in the situation here, I think Lowry's expected to return. This Heat team is going to get no ownership, so you can get easily above the field in tournaments pretty easily. Upside guys, obviously Bam and Butler. I like going to Bam over Butler on both sides, and the price tag is kind of favorable in that decision. Tyler Hero and Kyle Lowry are priced appropriately. Hero's too expensive in my opinion now. 7,900 on FanDuel. Sure, nothing too exciting here. This Miami team not getting much ownership, but rightfully so. It's a great Utah spot, so I think you can get above the field on one or two of these guys, and I think you'll be just fine.
Yep, and a guy who looks just on the FanDuel board differentiated from the DK board. He's 5,200 on DK, 44 on FanDuel is Max Strus coming through about 15.7% optimal. Not much ownership on him, so tournament play kind of interesting there. On the Utah side, we've got Larry Markkinen, Clarkson, Sexton, the usual pieces, Mike Conley, everybody coming through in the single digits as far as optimal rate. Anybody you're looking to get to from that side aggressively more so than the field?
Not real aggressive. I think more or less coming in under the field type of situation. With Kelly Olynyk returning from injury, it just has made this rotation a little bit more difficult to go to. There are a lot of guys who are potentially mispriced with no Kelly Olynyk. Now with them being back in the picture, tough to go to this team with any sort of confidence. Keep an eye on the Mike Conley situation. They did play last night, so potentially a rest spot here. But as of now, I think he'll play. We'll see. Keep an eye on that situation though in terms of news.
Okay. Does that lead us to more like just an uptick for like Clarkson, Sexton, those type guys? Who benefits the most from if?
Yeah, I think Sexton and Beasley can certainly get more minutes. Go their way as well. I think Clarkson more facilitation options. So those just open up the backcourt. Certainly get above the field on.
Excellent. Makes some sense. Gang, that brings us to the end of this show. So stick around. We've got a ton of content coming up. Right after this, we've got 11 o'clock, the college football live before lock show with Ben and Matt. That's going to be awesome. 1 o'clock, NFL strategy show, Greg and Neil. That's also going to be excellent. 5 o'clock, deeper dive for basketball. Come back, see how the slates changed with Emac and Gunn. 6 to 7, we'll have live before lock with Greg and Matt LaMarca. So excellent day of programming. Make sure you're sticking around for it. We appreciate all the likes, the subscribes. That was Ryan. I'm Terry. We're out of here.